He's done the unspeakable. He's talked against the boss. And, Trump runs a tight ship as a dictator. He really does. Those guys, you see those guys around him, many of whom are independent billionaires themselves in their own rights. But, they laugh at all his jokes and they suck up to him. And this is the way it is in Trump world. This is not a collegial, collaborative cabinet we have here. This is a top-down dictatorship.
Hello, I'm Fergus Macphee, and welcome to the Trump Report on Times Radio. A reminder, you can watch us every day, Monday through Friday, on our YouTube channel, and you can also now listen to the show as a podcast. Just search the Trump Report wherever you get your podcasts. I'm delighted to say that joining me today, once again, is Diane Francis, Editor-at-Large of the National Post and Senior Research Fellow at the Atlantic Council. Diane, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, there's only one place to start today because we are speaking after last night. Elon Musk really ramped up the rhetoric against Donald Trump's tax and spending bill. He hit out last night calling it outrageous and a disgusting abomination. Now, we already knew that he wasn't a fan of it, but his post on X was quite extraordinary. I'm just going to read the whole thing. It said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." The White House played it down and said afterwards they weren't really surprised about this. Were you surprised?
No, he's a loose cannon, and he always has been. Bringing him into the White House was, Trump, if nothing else, is a risk taker. And the guy is, out of control. We don't know what's really going on there. There's lots of rumors about his drug usage. Don't know if that's true or not, but he's erratic. He's even more erratic than the president himself. And he did not like this bill. And he, of course, has quit the White House. He's out, or he was pushed, or a little of both. And now he's going to be just a constant pain in the neck because he will, without any controls whatsoever, be posting regularly on his X profile.
Well, you mentioned touching it there. We don't know the sort of inner workings necessarily of the conversations between Donald Trump and Elon Musk and what was happening in the White House. And they've been sort of very quick to downplay any suggestions of a rift. But the kind of language you used yesterday suggests that it wasn't a particularly happy end for Elon Musk in government.
Well, no, I think he's a proprietor. He's like Trump. He's a dictator. He's a corporate dictator. He gets what he wants. And he wasn't used to being in a team. He wasn't used to necessarily acceding to the wishes of the more powerful guy, which is Trump. He also invested a whole bunch of money in Trump's reelection, and he wanted some say and some control over what was done. But of course, it doesn't work that way. And the other thing is that I think this guy is really annoyed because his participation and his behavior has absolutely crashed the good name of Tesla, and his company is in major trouble. People are turning in or trying to get rid of their Teslas. People don't like Tesla. There's a whole massive boycott. I think his company could be driven out of business because of his antics and his behavior and his political stances.
You said just then that Donald Trump is the more powerful of the two. I just want to ask, obviously Elon Musk is someone who, through X and through all the work he's done in his career, he's kind of able to tap into a large proportion of the online right, potentially people who are slightly younger. And he did another post on X yesterday after that one I just read, where he said, in November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. Presumably that might include Donald Trump. And I guess the question is, have the administration maybe shot them in the foot by making perhaps an enemy of Elon Musk and people who might support him?
Well, Trump has a lot of enemies. He doesn't care. He's doing what he thinks is right. I don't know about this threat in the fall because the midterms aren't for another year after that. If he's alluding to getting involved in the primary process next fall in advance of the midterms the following year, then I think that is a very real and serious threat. He can pinpoint candidates, senatorial or in the House of Representatives, that he likes or dislikes, and he can make life miserable for them. And he's not the only one doing that, and that would do that. He probably would be joined in this and gets his inspiration from Peter Thiel, who was his former partner in PayPal. And Thiel is also a disaffected Trumpy. And he put Vance in power, unfortunately. He spent more money on Republican candidates in the presidential cycle than anybody else did. He's the big bag man for the Republicans. And of course, now Tesla's Musk may join that. So that becomes formidable because all these people are up for re-election in the House every 2 years.
So will the administration be glad to see the back of him, or a little bit wary for what the future holds?
Oh, I don't think they're wary. Trump is a fearless player. I think that Musk has made a fool of himself in many respects. He has alienated all of the previous political alliances he had, which were Democratic Party alliances. Strangely, I mean, he crossed the floor to join up with Trump, thinking that he could push his ideas onto Trump. But he pushed some, but not others.
Does Elon Musk have a point at all? I mean, his sort of whole agenda while he was in government was Doge and cutting government spending. And whatever you think about that, he said that this new bill would add sort of 2.5 trillion to the deficit. Does he have reason to be aggrieved?
Oh, I think yes. I think everybody should be concerned about the level of spending and debt that the United States is carrying, because the underpinning for the global economy is the U.S. dollar, and that's a very great concern. And so he would be joining many other people in this view. But I think he is and has been and will be marginalized in terms of a force apart from his wallet. That is pretty awesome. So I think he can blurt whatever he wants on X, just like Trump can blurt whatever he wants because he's got a trumpet on the other end. But at the end of the day, money talks in the U.S. Political system, and he's got lots of it.
And presumably, even without him, there are plenty of people still in government who do want to cut government spending.
Presumably, but Trump is the boss, and the budget speaks for that. He's done a little of this and a little of that. He asked Elon Musk to cut a lot through his Doge process, but it's a big problem. I mean, it's a intrinsic problem, and it's not going to be done by one guy with a pretend chainsaw or by one president either. There are vested interests all across the United States who are sucking money out of that government. And there are vested interests across the United States who don't like to pay taxes. So the combination of those two things is the problem.
If there's a lot to still be done, sort of as you mentioned, then I'm just going to ask you to maybe get your crystal ball out. Do you think we'll ever see Elon Musk return to this administration? No.
I think that he's done the unspeakable. He's talked against the boss. Trump runs a tight ship as a dictator. He really does. Those guys, you see those guys around him, many of whom are independent billionaires themselves in their own rights. But, they laugh at all his jokes and they suck up to him. And this is the way it is in Trump world. This is not a collegial, collaborative cabinet we have here. This is a top-down dictatorship.
Okay, it's time to move on slightly to Ukraine. And on Sunday, we saw Ukraine launch an audacious and surprise drone attack, codenamed Operation Spiderweb, which attacked kind of deep within Russia and was able to damage 40 bombers at air bases. Since then, we've also seen them damage a bridge between Crimea and Russia with underwater explosives. Now, Donald Trump said that he wasn't aware of the first attack before it happened, and he's been pretty quiet on it since. Why do you think that is?
because the Ukrainians just upended everybody's military strategies. In other words, a few toy drones can bomb any aircraft in any air base that the Americans, the Brits, or the Russians, or the Chinese own. This is a revolutionary strike as well as daring. This does change all of the I would say strategy of for instance, one commentator recently said, Trump hopes to spend $1 gazillion on the Golden Dome so that there's a satellite, so that there's space protection from anybody bombing the United States anywhere. Well, that's all very well and good and very expensive with lasers and satellite coverage and all that kind of thing. But these guys drove trucks onto Russian roads, hiding their identity and with containers on the back that had these toy drones that devastated their air force and their air capability. And they did the same thing. They sank a third of the Russian naval fleet with sea drones, which were actually improvised ski-doos with bombs on them. I mean, they are the smartest nation in terms of IT and AI and intellectual property in the world. And now they're showing it to the world and proving it. It's not coincidental that Zelensky's father has been for many years the most famous computer scientist in Eastern Europe.
So this is so significant, this attack, that it will sort of send a message to Donald Trump and the world that's saying, look, we can do this.
Well, I think it is hugely embarrassing to Russia, but it's enormously enabling for Ukraine in terms of its allies. Now, the United States didn't say anything other than we didn't know about it ahead of time because they didn't want to be bombed by Russia in retaliation or anything like that. So that's the reason they said that. But I can guarantee you that everybody in the Pentagon and everybody in all of the other militaries around the world are going back to the drawing boards. This changes everything. And all these bases and missile silos and all this stuff on the ground can be, with cunning, penetrated and destroyed.
Would you say, again, we don't know Donald Trump's personal thoughts on this. I think one of my colleagues on this show spoke to somebody yesterday who sort of speculated they thought Trump would be quite impressed by this. Would you agree?
He's impressed. I'm sure he was. Well, I would say the first emotion was, oh gosh, they'll never get peace. They'll never fix this darn thing. And I said I would do it. And he wouldn't vocalize that. The second thing would be, that is really cool. Holy cow. And the third thing would be Pete Hegseth, the pretty boy who runs the Defense Department, saying, you know what this means? They have just rendered, useless about half of our military expenditures in terms of defense costs. So I think he was hit with three things all at once, as the world has been.
Well, one person who didn't sound necessarily too impressed, I think it was last night or this morning, was US Special Envoy Keith Kellogg. He said that the risk of escalation in the war has gone way up after the weekend's attack, citing Russia's nuclear threat.
This kiboshes the peace effort. There is just no way. So this just will escalate and go on unless Trump wants to impose something or, something breaks. But that's what I said. The first thing is, wow, that's cool. The second thing is, oh my goodness, we have to reinvent our armed forces. And the third thing is, my peace deal is not going to happen. Now, what we have waiting in the wings, however, is Senator Lindsey Graham's massive terrorist legislation that will and should put the ultimate pressure on Russia to at least agree to a ceasefire, because that would unleash unbelievable tariffs on all of his oil customers, who must be on the phone right now saying, hey, sort this out because we need oil. It's in our national interest. The bill would impose a 500% tariff on China and India. And that would, of course, shut down their economies if they can't get access to the oil, and it would probably blow their treasuries if they had to pay that much. So putting the pressure on the customers is the next point that I think may help. But, I don't think Putin is predictable.
Diane Francis, thank you so much for joining us on the Trump Report today.
You're welcome.